those values are being vandalized in real time. Our republic is being vandalized in real time. This historic project of our founding fathers. It's the 250th anniversary this year. And every day, we're fighting the fight to save our republic.
I wanted you to talk about how important are these values to you and your constituents, and does it help shore up the transatlantic relationship if California stands up for them?
Well, that's why I'm here. I mean, it's not the rule of law, it's the rule of dawn. And I hope it's dawning on all of you that's the case. Yeah, it's the law of the jungle. Might makes right. You know, I was interesting, you mentioned Rubio's speech today. I liked it tonally. I liked this notion of Western civilization. If he's referring, in that case, to the best of Roman Republic and Greek democracy, co-equal branches of government, if he's referencing popular sovereignty and the rule of law, I align with his remarks. If it's about an imperialism and an imperial presidency, I don't necessarily. So I'm here to sort of fill that void and to express what I hope you understand, that Donald Trump is not only temporary, but he may be among the most un-American presidents ever to have resided at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. And I really believe that. I don't say that lightly. He's an invasive species. He's taken over the Republican Party. You know, I sit every single day in Ronald Reagan's old office. Ronald Reagan was governor of California. Ronald Reagan would be ashamed of this moment in time. You know, Ronald Reagan, whose last speech in the Oval Office was about Lady Liberty's torch, about the energy and daring of newcomers and what defines America from the rest of the globe. Those values are being vandalized in real time. Our republic is being vandalized in real time. This historic project of our founding fathers. It's the 250th anniversary this year. And every day, we're fighting the fight to save our republic. I mean, you have leaders that are here that the President of the United States tried to indict. Senator Mark Kelly tried to indict him this last week. A grand jury, 6 members of the United States Congress. He's going after his political enemies. 4,000, I'll conclude. I don't want to take too much time on this. But I want to remember all those images of masked men, the secret police, something familiar in Germany. Those first images came out of my state, the second largest city in the United States of America. We saw 4,000 National Guard federalized. First time, we'd never seen anything like this. And 700 active duty Marines sent not overseas, but to the second largest city in the United States of America, militarizing the streets of my city. Masked men showing up, unaccountable, no ID, smashing windows, dragging people out, people disappearing in the United States of America. 2 people gunned down and killed just recently. It's a long way of saying this. I'm here, you know, because our immune system has been woken up. But so has the American people, and I think increasingly the rest of the world. And I've seen it reflected in Davos. I see it reflected here in Munich in a very positive and powerful way. He exploits weakness. That's his strength. But he responds very differently to conviction, character, purpose, where people are expressing themselves firmly and formally. And I believe that the tone and tenor of Rubio's speech today is reflected in that. It has been reflected in the actions of many European leaders. And I believe Europe feels more united today than it has in some time. And perhaps maybe that is the one contribution of Donald Trump.
Mr. President, same question to you. How important is your support of these values to your constituents and to your stewardship of the Transatlantic Partnership?
Das ist, nein, überhaupt gar nicht.
No, not at all. Not at all. Quite the contrary, Governor, quite the contrary. I think what you just said is really moving. Of course, we're watching it in the news. We read the reports. We see. But if the governor says there were 5,000 people coming into my city with masks, that is something that makes you afraid. Because to us, America is a special country, the land of freedom, the land of liberty. It's a country with these big values, living and breathing these big values. And of course, that's the country that also brought these values over to us after the darkest times of the German history. We brought the world into darkness, and then the Americans came and showed us how we could do it. And then hearing such stories, it makes me very concerned. And there are two levels to me that make me think, that make me wonder. You know that the Christian Democratic Union, my party, historically speaking, always had a relatively good relationship to the Grand Old Party, to the Republicans. But we Christian Democrats, at the moment, do not recognize the Republicans anymore. And of course, we continue looking for contact. We continue looking for these touch points. But we can see that those people who we had contact with, who we have contact with, either no longer are there anymore or have nothing to say, have no power anymore. And that is a development that is quite problematic for us. And that's why, of course, it is even better than ever before that we always kept a good contact with Democrats as well. That's one level. The other level is that, of course, it also affects us as a country. It affects us as Europe. What seemed to be a given for us is no longer that. For me, it was always a given. This was my absolute conviction, my personal certainty. If anything in this world becomes difficult, if anything becomes dark, if the light goes out, then at the very least, America and the Europeans, and then of course especially the Americans and we Germans, will be standing side by side in the face of that darkness. And that is no longer the case. We saw a very unfortunate spectacle in the Oval Office when President Zelensky was really embarrassed. A president whose country is fighting for freedom. And of course, it was the California National Guard who was the first ones who came very, very early and helped the Ukrainians. You trained them, you gave them the weapons. And then we see that. And that's why it's a true fracture. And now we have to deal with that here in Europe, of course. And I just want to say one more thing. I think there's a world coming up that is based on deals. It's no longer based on values. And that is something that is very, very new to all of us. And I think we have to tell the people, only the deal makers profit of the deals, but not the people. None of you will profit of these deals, only the deal makers. You have to know that. It's a world of the powerful and rich, and it's a world that is dangerous. And I still want to say, and I think also the German military, the European military would agree, it does make sense that the Americans always, with Bill Clinton, with Biden, with Trump 1, Trump 2, of course, anyways, that the Americans said, listen, you Europeans, you need to really do your homework. It cannot be the American taxpayers who pay for Europe's safety and security. You have to do more for that. And I think, and I agree with you on that, I think that the only positive thing is at the moment is that we are finally growing up in Europe, that we become sovereign, that we become more resilient, that we really understand that we have to take care of our own destiny. But I think when it comes to the rule of law, when it comes to freedom, I think we are, of course, at a completely different level. And I think that's also what I said in the very beginning. And still, I would like to say that Germany should be careful to apply all of these debates to the transatlantic relationship. We should not have these debates damage this valuable relationship. We must maintain the transatlantic relationship. We must keep with it. We must build bridges. For example, by way of talking to a governor like you, such an impressive governor who runs the 5th largest economy of the world, California, of course. And I think it's very important, and I think we all have to be aware that this American way of life, that what America embodies is still at the core of America. It's still in there. And that's why we have to foster the dialogue. We have to stay together. And what we must not do is we must not be divided. Let's stay together. Let's stay in touch. Let's have these encounters. I think that's what we can, and best at this level, on the state level, on the subnational level. And that's why it's great to have such a panel. And
if I may pick up, I appreciate your generous words. And Trump is temporary. It's important to understand that. He'll be measured in a matter of years, not decades. If he were a younger man, I wouldn't necessarily say that. There's no question he would seek a third term. Unquestionable in my mind. I don't say that lightly. I can back that up. But his time of life, not his state of mind, make this a temporary moment. And that's why it's so important, in the spirit, again, of this conversation, this notion of subnational relationships, stable partnerships. We are now, unfortunately, the United States, and I've never thought this happened in my lifetime, the source of more instability than any other nation in the world, the United States of America. And that's why we have to remind folks that this is not permanent. And I know there's a lot of pessimism that somehow it's irreparable. We'll never go back to our original form. And I understand that. Once a mind is stretched of what's possible, it never necessarily goes back to its original form. But I say it's not dead, it's dormant. You may need to sleep with one eye open. It will take time, but it's certainly not dead. And it's not representative. Again, he is an historic president, and it's important you understand this, historically unpopular. He is going to get crushed in the midterm elections. Crushed in the midterm elections. He's going to lose his authority under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act to impose tariffs. He will lose that at the Supreme Court in a matter of months. That's been the source of most of his energy and most of his negotiating power. And by the way, the source of most of his direct dealing. The most corrupt president in American history. What do so many of the foreign policy trips have in common? Members of his family there first. Setting the tone and tenor, setting the course of the deal. For the tower, the golf course, for the investments, for the crypto. Witkoff, not just Trump. Partnerships with the family. It's all there in plain sight. It's open. It's not the $400 million planes as the tithing and gifts. Billions and billions of dollars in the last year. It's not about policy making, it's about profit making. And the tariff capacity has been one of his principal tools for self-dealing. But the challenge is, and this is a challenge in terms of not bending the knee and standing firm and tall, not just governments and foreign leaders, but corporate leaders, universities, law firms, and the media. The imperative of standing tall. Because right now, President Xi is blushing. Crony capitalism is not free enterprise. It's not a healthy horse pulling a sturdy wagon, as Churchill once said. It's state capitalism. NVIDIA, the tithings, Intel, MP Materials, golden shares at U.S. Steel. Kiss the ring. That's not the America I grew up in. And it's not the America you just described. And God bless, we're inspired by it, as we all were. Hardly perfect. And so that's the imperative of this moment, to establish different relationship to this moment and to remind people that this is temporary.
Subscribe to One India and never miss an update. Download the One India app now.